You know, when you think about the forces that shaped Europe, your mind probably jumps to places like Rome or France or Britain. But what if I told you that a nation in the Balkans, one that's often seen as being on the edge of things, has actually been a key driver of culture, conflict, and comeback for thousands of years? Today, we're talking about the story of Bulgaria, a nation forged at a crossroads that has proven to be one of history's great survivors.
All right, let's just jump right in with a fact that perfectly shows Bulgaria's overlooked influence on the world. That script, Cyrillic, the one used by hundreds of millions of people across Eastern Europe and Asia, it wasn't invented in Russia. No, its origins are right here in the medieval Bulgarian Empire. And believe me, that's just scratching the surface.
To really get a handle on Bulgaria's resilience, we've got to go way, way back. We need to see how this land has always been a cradle of innovation, long before many of the great empires we all know about even existed.
No, that is not a typo. Over 6,000 years ago, a society living on the Black Sea coast was already processing gold. The treasure found there is the oldest of its kind ever discovered, predating even the gold of the Egyptian pharaohs. This tells you that this land was a center of sophisticated culture and technology right from the dawn of civilization.
So how did modern Bulgaria come to be? Well, it's really a fusion of three distinct peoples. First up, you have the ancient Thracians, who were these legendary masters of metalworking. They were followed by the Slavs, who came in and provided the linguistic foundation for the whole region. And finally, the Bulgars, a warrior people from Central Asia, arrived, conquered the land, and gave the country both its name and its very first empire.
And this brings us right back to that wild fact from the beginning. In the 9th and 10th centuries, Bulgarian scholars basically created and perfected a new script for the Slavic language. Now, this wasn't just an alphabet. It was a powerful tool of cultural and religious independence. It allowed the entire Slavic world to break free from the dominance of Greek and Latin and develop its own incredible literary tradition.
But it wasn't just about culture. This cultural power had some serious military and political muscle to back it up. For centuries, Bulgaria wasn't just some kingdom. It was an empire that went toe-to-toe with the greatest powers of its time.
This timeline, it shows this incredible pattern, right? A story of glory, total collapse, and then rebirth. The first empire hits its golden age, expanding its territory and culture like crazy, before it's finally conquered by its arch-rival, the Byzantine Empire. But then, more than 150 years later, it rises from the ashes in a massive revolt to create the Second Bulgarian Empire, only to eventually fall to the Ottoman conquest. This whole cycle is absolutely key to understanding the Bulgarian identity.
And this quote just puts it all into perspective. At its height, Bulgaria wasn't just some regional player. It was a European superpower, a major force shaping the entire continent, standing right alongside the Frankish Empire in the west and the Byzantine Empire in the east.
So, the really crucial question is, what happens next? After the fall of that Second Empire, Bulgaria basically vanishes from the map of Europe. This kicks off a period of nearly 500 years that would test the national spirit to its absolute breaking point.
Just try to imagine that. For almost 500 years, there was no independent Bulgarian state. It was just a territory ruled by the Ottoman Empire. For generations, the whole idea of a Bulgarian nation was something that had to be preserved against all odds.
And the pressure was just immense. The old Bulgarian nobility, gone, wiped out. A heavy blood tax literally took Christian boys from their families to serve the empire. But the national identity, it didn't die. It went underground, kept alive in the script, the language, and the Orthodox faith, hidden away by clergy in remote monasteries.
This was the breaking point. A national uprising for freedom was crushed with such brutality that it horrified the rest of Europe. The news of the massacres triggered a response from the great powers, leading directly to a war between Russia and the Ottoman Empire that would, finally, result in Bulgaria's liberation.
So independence was regained, but Bulgaria's story in the 20th century is one of being caught between giants. Its strategic position at the crossroads of Europe threw it into a century of brutal conflict, serious ideological whiplash, and just dramatic transformation. And this slide just perfectly captures the crazy shifts the country went through. In the early part of the century, it was this militaristic kingdom people called the Balkan Prussia, and it sided with Germany in World War I. Then, just a few decades later, bam! After a Soviet invasion in World War II, it becomes the staunchly communist People's Republic, a loyal ally of Moscow.
Just look at this chain of events. It shows a nation navigating these catastrophic choices. And get this, Despite its alliance with Nazi Germany, Bulgaria famously resisted pressure and saved its entire Jewish population from the Holocaust. But even that didn't stop a Soviet invasion, the end of its monarchy, and 45 years trapped behind the Iron Curtain, until the revolutions of 1989 brought it all crashing down.
So, after communism falls, Bulgaria finds itself at yet another crossroads. After decades of facing east, it turned its focus back toward the west, starting that difficult journey of building a modern democracy and a market economy from the ground up.
And the first step? Oh, it was a painful one. They had to dismantle that rigid, state-controlled economic system. This shock therapy caused immense hardship in the 1990s as the country really struggled to adapt to a brand new reality.
And wow, this table shows you just how massive that change really was. The entire economy has been restructured. Today, 2/3 of the labor force works in the services sector. That's the hallmark of a modern European economy, right there.
And here's something you might not know. Building on a surprisingly strong legacy in computing from the Soviet era, people actually used to call it the communist Silicon Valley. Bulgaria has successfully carved out a new niche for itself. It's now a thriving regional hub for software development and IT.
And this all led to these huge geopolitical milestones. It was a conscious choice to rejoin the West. In 2004, it joined the NATO Security Alliance, and then in 2007, the big one. It became a full member of the European Union. These steps were really the culmination of its post-communist journey back into the heart of Europe. Okay, so after navigating thousands of years of empires, conquests, and ideologies, where does that leave Bulgaria as it stands at this new, modern crossroads? Well, the challenges are every bit as real as the opportunities.
You can see its modern identity right here in its demographics. It's still that crossroads, right? While ethnic Bulgarians are the vast majority, significant Turkish and Roma minorities are an absolutely integral part of the nation's fabric and its history.
But here's the thing. Maybe the single most urgent challenge facing Bulgaria today is demographic. Since the end of communism, the population has shrunk dramatically, falling from nearly 9 million people to around 6.4 million today. That's mostly due to low birth rates and a lot of people emigrating. Reversing this trend is a massive priority for the country's future.
So you go from the world's oldest processed gold to creating an alphabet that shaped half a continent, from an empire that was a medieval superpower to a people who simply refused to disappear for 500 years. Bulgaria's story is one of astonishing resilience. The question now is, how will this ancient nation navigate the crossroads of the 21st century?